which Week 3 NFL games are must bets. Welcome, football fans and gridiron gamblers. It's Mitch here with my 5 favorite spread picks for Week 3 of the 2025 NFL season. If that sounds good, Gronk, Spike, the like button. Let me know in the comments your opinion on my picks, and let me know your favorite pick for Week 3. Let's get started breaking down my 5 favorite spread selections. The first game I want to discuss is the Houston Texans getting 1.5 points on the road at Jacksonville. Now, a lot of gamblers are going to be persuaded to not bet on the Texans. Many were probably burnt by the Texans on Monday night, including myself. It was one of my 2 losses last week, right? The Houston Texans, to me, are still the better team. I still have them rated higher than Jacksonville, first and foremost. Let's look at the competition that each team has played. The Texans, on the road at the Rams. Close game, down to the wire. Texans driving, ultimately fumble the ball away, lose the game. Week 2, they get the lead with 2 minutes, 20 seconds, around there, left in the fourth quarter against Tampa Bay. 2 teams that are favored to make the playoffs, 2 teams that made the playoffs last year, 2 top 10 quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford. And now they play Jacksonville. Jacksonville, meanwhile, has played the Carolina Panthers, in my opinion, the worst team in the NFL, at home. And then they played Cincinnati, in Cincinnati, with their backup quarterback for 3 quarters. And they got shredded. So, the competition, there's a little bit of a difference here. Jacksonville does look sexier. They look like more fun. They might even look more appealing to the eyes. But we know the Texans are not an appealing team. It makes them very, very hard to bet on. But I can't imagine the Texans going 0-3. They were favored to win this division. They've won this division 2 years consecutively, and they've won a playoff game in those 2 seasons. To me, they still have an absolutely elite defense. And they did a really good job of holding 2 of the best quarterbacks and 2 of the best offenses in football to a pretty modest day overall. Sure, they lost on the last possession against 2 playoff opponents. All they prove to me is that they're more flawed than those teams. But Jacksonville is also flawed. And they don't really have an identity right now. First of all, Trevor Lawrence, he has how many interceptions in his first 2 games? You check his passer ratings, a 74 and an 80 in his first 2 games against 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL. And I understand Jacksonville can run the ball. And that's a bit of a weakness of the Texans. We saw Bucky Irving, Rachaad White have a good day. The Rams, not so much, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yes. And Liam Cohen, coming from Tampa Bay, they might find some success that way. But look at Jacksonville's change in competition here. They're going from playing Carolina's pass rush and the Bengals defense to playing the Texans with Derek Stingley, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. This is an elite defense. And they're going to provide pressure on Trevor Lawrence. They also can put Derek Stingley on Brian Thomas. And I'm not so sure I'm sold on the alternative options of the weaponry that Jacksonville has to offer. Travis Hunter has not lived up to the hype so far. And look at the difference in the Texans. They're going from Baker and Stafford to Trevor Lawrence, who's extremely inaccurate, doesn't always make the best decisions in big moments. So I still think even if CJ is struggling, they have the better quarterback. I believe they have the much better defense. And I believe they're the better team with more motivation because they're 0-2. And if they go 0-3, especially dropping a divisional game, that's really going to hinder their chances looking at how Indianapolis is playing right now. So it's kind of fundamental here. But I like the dog in the division and the dog that I still think is the better team, who have only been 0-2 because they've played good teams, while Jacksonville has played two of the worst defenses in football, a backup quarterback, and essentially, the worst team in the NFL. And they've built up this level of, we can move the ball, we can score points because we're playing the Bengals and the Panthers. The Texans do get Christian Kirk back this week. That should definitely help. He's also in a revenge game going back to Jacksonville. He should help open up Nico Collins. We saw Jamar Chase obliterate Jacksonville last week. Nico Collins could get a ton of targets here. CJ needs to get it going, and I think he will try to find Nico often, early and often. I do believe that possibly the Texans could run the ball a bit better than they did last week. Tampa's difficult to run the ball on, right? Nick Chubb hasn't looked half bad. They're getting Woody Marks more involved. I think this is a much easier matchup for CJ Stroud and the Texans offense. Jacksonville did give up some points to Jake Browning and to the Bengals, and the Rams have a vicious front seven. They have a really good pass rush. Todd Bowles, that front seven, they're very creative. They can create pressure with their blitz packages. There's reasons they didn't succeed. The Texans are moving down in competition. Jacksonville is rising in competition, and I just don't believe in Jacksonville to be able to win this game in a massive motivation spot for the Houston Texans. So I will take the Texans in the subtle AFC South upset. The next game is the New England Patriots plus 1.5 at home versus Pittsburgh. My Patriots, as a dog last week, for some reason, at Miami, won outright. And they were ahead early, and they hung on late. Drake May had his coming out party, and he looked like he arrived in Miami. New England typically always struggles in Miami. No matter how good their team has been, they have lost some of those games because of the environment. The Patriots defense has struggled in the secondary, but they've been a legit run defense in the first two games, limiting A-Shane on the ground and Genty on the ground. They have also been the best sacking team in the NFL. They have 9 sacks so far this year. Milton Williams has been every penny worth of that contract, and Harold Landry is one of the NFL's leaders in sacks. So the Patriots, their pass rush is legit. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have shown so far that they can definitely give up some pressure to Seattle and the Jets. This game is also on the road for the Steelers, where I believe it's more difficult to offensive lines to travel and have to deal with the overall communication and being on the road and dealing with the fan base and all that sort of stuff and the noise, right? So Pittsburgh has a bad offensive line. Bad offensive lines don't travel well, especially against pass rushes that can get interior pressure with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, one of the best interior duos in football. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not been able to run the ball. I don't expect them to be able to run the ball against New England. The Pittsburgh Steelers probably have the least amount of weapons that the Patriots have faced so far. They faced Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in Miami, and they faced the Raiders with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, some speedy younger receivers, Ashton Genty in the backfield. Pittsburgh really has DK Metcalf and some tight ends. I'm not really sure that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to throw the ball in pure passing situations, given their pass protection, given Aaron Rodgers can't move, and given that the Patriots might get Christian Gonzalez back. He has been practicing this week. That would be a huge addition. Even if he doesn't play, Carlton Davis is an ideal matchup for DK Metcalf because he's physical and he will get in your face at the line of scrimmage. Marcus Jones, quicker, smaller corner, can cover Calvin Austin. I think the Patriots defense has their best game of the season in this game because I don't think the Steelers have much to attack them with. And their offensive line is extremely flawed. I think the Patriots will win that matchup in key moments. Steelers might have their moments moving the ball. They might be able to trick the Patriots. Arthur Smith is smart with his screens and things like that. But I think in key moments, in real passing downs, Just like they did against Miami, they will get pressure, they will win their matchups, and they will sack the quarterback because Rodgers is not moving from his spot, and it's not like you got to deal with the speed of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So on the other side, really what this comes down to is how much do you believe in Drake May? Me, a lot. I think Drake May is the most underappreciated or miscalculated quarterback in the market right now. I think Drake May is legit very good. And so I'm going to keep betting Drake May until they change the line to appropriately reflect how talented he is, which I don't know how long that's going to take. Josh McDaniels started to get it cooking last week with some great stuff out of the backfield from his running backs, and the run game started to get going. Drake May looked great, and I believe the Patriots have the decisively better quarterback. The offensive line actually has not been that bad so far this year for the Patriots. It's actually been better than Pittsburgh's. And they do have a plethora of playmakers that they can use against this Steelers team. First of all, the Steelers have allowed 2 100-yard rushers in back-to-back weeks, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker went for 8 yards per carry on the road against Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh has a run defense problem. Josh McDaniels will look to expose that. Josh McDaniels over the years has owned Mike Tomlin and the Steelers' defenses time after time after time. Hunter Henry could be a problem for these beat-up safeties of the Steelers, and Patrick Queen's having problems in the middle as well. It feels like the Steelers also have some beat-up cornerbacks, with Joey Porter Jr. being a bit questionable. I like what I've seen from Kayshon Boutte. I like what I've seen in spots from Stephon Diggs. I just really feel like Drake May can make more happen than Aaron Rodgers. I think the Patriots have more ways of attacking a defense than the Steelers, and I think the Patriots are a better team than the Steelers. They're getting a 1.5, and they're at home. Mike Tomlin is not great as a short favorite, and Mike Vrabel is great as a underdog. Mike Vrabel is a dog 2 weeks in a row. I am taking the Patriots as a dog at home to prove that they are better than Pittsburgh. I have not seen anything from Pittsburgh that makes me believe in this team. They lost by multiple touchdowns to Seattle, and they also lost, or almost lost, probably should have lost, to the New York Jets. And the Jets are no good. I just don't know. They have a lot of flaws. They're not playing like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not running the ball. They're not stopping the run, and their pass rush is not quite the same. So give me Drake May and the Patriots to go 2-1 entering week 4. Next, I like the 49ers minus 2.5 versus the Cardinals. I didn't really talk about this one earlier in the week because I didn't know who the quarterback was going to be. I still don't know who the quarterback's going to be. But I would take the Niners to win this game regardless of quarterback. It does appear that Brock Purdy has practiced 2 to 3 days in a row now. So that is pretty promising for Purdy to potentially play here. But I don't know if it really matters that much in terms of where I would lean on this side. To me, this is more about the Cardinals being a bit overrated and the Niners being a bit underrated as a defense. I think the Cardinals are overrated from the perspective of they have played the Panthers and the Saints. Literally, in my opinion, the 2 worst teams in the NFL. And they had issues in that second half of the Panthers game. They lost multiple cornerbacks who are going to pop up on the injury report, including Will Johnson, Max Melton, and who will be out and on IR, their best corner, Garrett Williams, who plays in the slot. That is a big loss. He's a very underrated player. The Cardinals do have a solid front, but overall, I just like what the Niners are doing on offense. I think Kyle Shanahan is in his bag with a point to prove. The 49ers have their home opener here. They've played on the road in the previous 2 weeks. And I just, from a fundamental level, I don't see the Niners losing their first home game against a team that they lost to twice last year. There'll be motivation to beat them this year. Last year, they lost to them in the final week of the season. It didn't matter. Josh Dobbs was playing quarterback, so that's not even really, can't even really take that into account. But the Niners defense looks fantastic. It's a big reason I'm believing in them. They've looked great on the road, and now they come to their home field where they should be even better, right? They do face maybe the toughest challenge in the Cardinals, but they have yet to defend or give up a 200-yard passer yet. So Sam Darnold struggled, then he went to the Steelers, and he lit it up, right? I look at the Niners, and I think they can get pressure on Kyler. Nick Bosa's playing great. Bryce Huff has been a great pickup so far, ending the game against the Saints. Michael Williams looks the part. Their run defense has been top 10 so far this year. The Cardinals have subtly not been as good running the ball so far. They played a very weak Carolina run defense and could barely run the ball the way that you would expect. The Niners look real good on that front. And if the Cardinals are not able to run the ball, that's going to put them in a lot of bad down and distance. And they don't have the weaponry, right? Like the Niners can shadow Marvin Harrison Jr. with Lenore on big passing plays. And I feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. is just simply overrated. It's really only Trey McBride. Everyone else is not really a huge threat. The Cardinals don't have a ton of downfield speed to threaten the Niners secondary. They can sit in the box, defend the run, contain Kyler Murray, and they know how to defend Kyler Murray. They've played him so many times at this point. I think the Niners defense really does dominate this matchup because if the Cardinals are not able to run the ball the way that they need to have success, there's no way in my mind that they are consistently winning the passing game matchup. Fred Warner and D. Winters in the middle are playing phenomenal. I really like this young secondary for the 49ers. And I don't really think the Cardinals have many options to beat the Niners in the passing game outside of the tight end. So, and obviously he'll get a lot of attention, including number 54, Fred Warner. So I really like that defense. And then again, going back to the offense for the 49ers, like it's Kyle Shanahan. We saw what he did with Mac Jones, 3 touchdowns. Mac Jones looked great. Juwan Jennings, I expect to play in this game, although beat up. He looked good last week. He could have a big game here if, with Garrett Williams out. I think he could attack the middle of the field. Ricky Pearsall has been a problem in the first 2 games. Christian McCaffrey is undefendable in space. Kyle Shanahan wins 75% of his games with Christian McCaffrey on his team. And the Niners offensive line does look solid. I don't think the Cardinals are just going to be able to tee off, especially with the Niners now back at home and not on the road having to deal with crowd noise. I think their offense is a lot more efficient overall. So I just think the Cardinals are a mid team. I think the Niners are better. I think the Niners are at home. And yes, they have injuries, but now the Cardinals are starting to stockpile some injuries of their own. So I will take the 49ers under a field goal in this game, preferably with Brock Purdy. But if it is Mac Jones, it could go back down to 2, 1.5. And in that case, you're getting a better number. I still think the Niners win even with Mac Jones. So give me the 49ers minus 2.5. The fourth game is going to be the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football plus 6.5 versus Kansas City. This is more of like, I just can't envision the Chiefs blowing an NFL team out. The Chiefs just don't blow teams out. They don't win by margin. At a fundamental level, it's a good idea to take points with the underdog at home on Sunday Night Football on prime time against the Chiefs. The Chiefs have very little to work with at wide receiver. Like, just look at the offenses the Giants have played so far. They've played the Dallas Cowboys on the road and the Washington Commanders on the road. This is the Giants' home opener on Sunday Night Football. Brian Daboll coaching for his job. Russell Wilson coming off one of the best games I've seen him play in quite some time. And I think the difference between the Giants playing CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, those offenses give you a lot of issues. They stress you. The Chiefs, they have a suspect offensive line, especially at right tackle. I feel like the Giants can get some pressure with their Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, edge rush. Dexter Lawrence is a problem up the middle. You've got to put 4 hands on him at all times. And the Chiefs have zero run game threat. The Giants do have a little bit of a weakness against the run, but the Chiefs, their leading rusher is their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, who isn't exactly Michael Vick in 2004. So I feel like the Chiefs' offense isn't potent enough. They don't have enough gas. They don't have enough big playability. Patrick Mahomes himself has played inaccurate. He has not played well, right? Like, and I've seen Shane Bowen, this defensive coordinator for the Giants, who I have major questions about, defend Mahomes before. And he hasn't done a bad job in Tennessee. I feel like the pass rush of the Giants gets some pressure in big moments. I feel like the Chiefs aren't consistently able to run the ball, and I still think there will be miscommunication from the receiver to the quarterback because they're just not on the same page. I feel like there's not a reliable option for Mahomes to really go to on third down. And I think the Giants actually can play a little bit more physical and aggressive in the secondary in this game because they know that nobody's beating them down the field. Unlike CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Terry McLaurin, right? It's totally different levels of offenses that the Giants are now facing in this game. And it's at home. Then on the other side, the Giants offensively look great against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are not a good defense from basically everything I've seen. But are we sure that the Chiefs are a good defense? I mean, they didn't look the part against the Chargers, right? They didn't. And the Giants, the thing about the Chiefs is they're probably going to blitz Russell Wilson. They're going to give up some one-on-one opportunities. And all we really need as this 6.5-point dog is to hit a couple of them. And Russell Wilson's certainly going to take his chances to Malik Neighbors. And Malik Neighbors looks uncoverable. Darius Slayton could definitely make some plays against Jalen Watson. Wan'Dale Robinson has looked real good from the slot. So maybe this Giants receiving core is a tad underrated. The Giants don't really have a running game, but neither do the Chiefs. I just feel like I love the home dog against a team that's not a potent offense. They're super overrated right now at quarterback. And I think the Giants can stay in this game late. Russ also doesn't typically make a ton of mistakes. You know, he doesn't typically throw a ton of interceptions. He might take some bad sacks. But I don't know, man. The Giants are the team that threw for 450 yards last week. You know, not the Chiefs. Chiefs can barely throw for 200. So the Giants, it scares me a little with how they've been coached. And the Chiefs, it scares me a little with them potentially falling to 0-3 is probably very unlikely. The Chiefs are probably going to win. But 6.5 is too many points for the Chiefs to be laying in just about any game, especially on the road in prime time. And then my fifth and final bet and best bet for week 3 is the Ravens, -4.5. I don't understand why this number keeps moving. The Ravens and the Lions are both very good teams, but I think there's separation between the tiers. I think the Ravens are considerably better, and everything I know about Lamar Jackson is that he absolutely crucifies and hammers NFC teams. I believe that the Ravens are going to put on a show on Monday Night Football. I think they're going to win this game by double digits. The Lions, the last time they played the Ravens, got absolutely hammered in 2023 by Baltimore's offense and defense. Jared Goff had a 72 passer rating. And it's not like the Lions, we don't necessarily know they're a better team than they were then, right? They might be worse, right? That was a Lions team that went to the NFC Championship. They had Aaron Glenn. They had Ben Johnson. And the Ravens just totally destroyed them. Like, they embarrassed them. And I don't know if they'll embarrass them here. But if you think about the matchup, the Ravens had issues against Josh Allen. They had issues with the movement of Josh Allen. They had issues with all that. But Jared Goff does not bring that or provide that. Jared Goff's a good quarterback, but he's in the pocket. The Ravens can push the pocket. The Ravens can stop the run. If they do anything, they've got big, nasty individuals in the inside that are going to hold their ground, and they're not going to give up yards to David Montgomery, right? And if the Lions can't run the ball, that puts an emphasis on this new offensive coordinator to drop back pass where Jared Goff is not as comfortable on the road in Baltimore, hostile environment against a very good coverage secondary that when you're not moving as a quarterback, they can stick to you. Marlon Humphrey at nickel against Amon-Ra, physical. I think he'll get really physical with the small receiver. Kyle Hamilton, if they need to, could lock down Sam Laporta. I think Wiggins can run with Williams on the outside. I think this is a really tough matchup for the Lions offense because I think the Ravens, their weaknesses are things that the Lions can't exploit. And then on the other side, I think the Ravens can exploit the Lions defensively because they play far too much man coverage. And against Lamar Jackson, that's just a bad idea. Zay Flowers is uncoverable one-on-one. And I don't think the Lions have a guy that really, truly can cover him for the whole game. I think Derrick Henry is a guy that you have to resort extra attention to in the box, which means that's going to give up some big plays. You have to have a safety in the box. I just trust the Ravens offense. You know, the Ravens offense is potent. It's pick your poison, and it's the second best quarterback in football here at home in prime time. Could you imagine the Ravens going 1-2? Absolutely not. I think that the Ravens win this game at least by a touchdown. I think they are the better team. I think they are on a tier with the Bills, maybe the Packers. We saw the Packers beat the Lions decisively at home. The Ravens have their chance here. Give me Baltimore -4.5 as my fifth and final best bet of week 3. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, Gronk spike the like button. Remember, if you want all of my bets every week of the NFL season, $5 a month on Patreon. Link in the description and in the pinned comment. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch. We'll see you next time. Good luck. Deuces.